Good afternoon. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Mr. Brown, will you do a roll call?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Vice Chairman Good.
Here.
Mayor Dyer.
Here.
Mayor Demings.
Here.
Mr. Martinez.
Here.
We have a quorum present, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Consideration of authority meetings, minutes for June 17th and July 15th. For motion.
Mr. Chairman, the first order of business, Mr. Vice Chairman, the first order of business should be election of officers today, pursuant to the bylaws.
Okay. We have two vacancies, one for chairman and one for treasurer. Do I hear a motion or a nomination for chairman?
Yes, sir. I would nominate Carson Good as chairman of the Greater Orlando Aviation Authority.
Second. Do we have another nomination? That being said, Mr. Brown, will you give a roll call vote?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Vice Chairman Good.
Yes.
Mayor Dyer.
Yes.
Mayor Demings.
Yes.
Mr. Martinez.
Yes.
It's unanimous, Mr. Chairman. Officially, Mr. Chairman.
We now need a nomination for vice chairman. Do I hear a nomination?
I'll nominate Ralph.
Do I have, is there any other nominations? We don't need a second. Would you like to do a roll call vote, Mr. Brown?
Yes, sir. Vice Chairman Good.
Yes.
Mayor Dyer.
Yes.
Mayor Demings.
Yes.
Mr. Martinez.
Yes.
It's unanimous, Mr. Chairman. Vice Chairman Martinez is now elected.
Very good. Do we have, does the treasurer have to be a board member?
Historically, it's
Do I hear a nomination for, do I have an answer for that question first?
I think there's a little bit of, in the past, there have been staff people that have served, because in a life way in the last century, I served as treasurer. I think that the tradition has been, at least in this century, that it's been a board member.
Well, good. I'd very much like that. Do we have a nomination for treasurer?
Mayor Demings, do you want to do it, or I'll do it if you don't?
Mayor Dyer, I'm fine with doing it.
Okay, I nominate Demings.
All vote? Thank you, Mayor Demings.
Shall I call the roll, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please.
Vice Chairman Good.
Yes.
Mayor Dyer.
Yes.
Mayor Demings.
Yes.
Mr. Martinez.
Yes.
Unanimous. Mayor Demings is now the treasurer, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. That's going to be great. Now I'd like to have a motion for the approval of the minutes for the June 17th as well as the July 15th meeting.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Roll call vote.
Do we have a second?
Second, Demings.
Roll call. Vice Chairman Good.
Yes.
Mayor Dyer.
Yes.
Mayor Demings.
Yes.
Mr. Martinez.
Yes.
It's unanimous, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Next is a presentation from the University of Central Florida Chairman Beverly C. Let me give a little bit of brief background to that. She came at the request of the Real Estate Development Committee. As you know, towards the beginning of this year, pre-COVID, We had a committee meeting. We talked a lot about trying to deliberately seeking out high-tech, state-of-the-art manufacturing logistics companies that could drive a diversified income stream for the airport, build more high-paying jobs for Central Florida, those that are accretive and could spin off additional like-kind businesses, accretive with our other private businesses not competitive in Central Florida, and help continue to diversify and build a tax base. We've got 4,000 acres that's available. 1,000 of it is downtown Orlando on Colonial Drive. Our location is unique. We're in the center of the third fastest growing state in the United States. Excuse me, we're in the center of the third largest and single fastest growing state in the United States. We're between two significant ports, one on the Gulf, one on the Atlantic. We've got rail, we now have Brightline, we have highway systems, and we have an awful lot to potentially offer some of these state-of-the-art companies. And we started talking about it, and then came COVID. And our focus moved to COVID. As I think many of us realized that we were both the airport and our community and the jobs in our community and our tax base, it felt a lot like September 11th when we were severely hit. And we sort of realized that we can't continue to be as reliant on tourists, and we need to diversify. We've done a great job in 20 years diversifying, but it's obvious now that we need to continue that march. And we'll certainly overcome this pandemic, and we'll certainly take the lead again as one of the greatest cities and fastest growing city in the country, but we need to prepare ourselves. And we now have a generational opportunity to really embark on this move. While there's a couple of things going on right now. One, the public is acutely attuned to the need for benefits of a more diversified economy. And that's state politicians, the local community, the local business community. There is now a strong national political sentiment for repatriating manufacturing, particularly pharmaceuticals. And lastly, there are new technologies now, including robotics, that make it much more preferable to manufacture here than in other places. I've been working, as was Mr. Brown and several others, for the last 4 or 5 months, while still covering and working on the extreme stresses from the pandemic. And I've spoken with big consulting firms, CEOs of pharmaceutical companies, CEOs of logistics companies, local governmental people, local business leaders, Committee of 100, and came across Beverly C. at UCF and was just really impressed at what UCF is doing and can do to work with us on that. Some of the areas we've looked at, as I said, pharmaceuticals, which we'll talk about in a minute, Space Force, lunar manufacturing, Space Force headquarters, which we're working on, Tesla, life sciences to complement our adjacent medical city, not to compete with, air freight, supply chain operations, flight simulation, 3D printing, and the digital twins. I think the first step is going to be to kind of bring this brainstorming and its efficiency to the board. If the board likes the ideas, and particularly after listening to Chairman C., let the staff begin working on a business plan and a critical path, in part with the help of UCF, who has really generously offered to help us with their incredible talents to get us off the ground and going. With that, let me turn the mic over to UCF Chairman Beverly C. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Good, Chairman Good. Good afternoon, and thank you for this opportunity to address the authority. UCF and the General Orlando Aviation Authority are committed to many of the same goals. For example, UCF's mission statement expresses its dedication to serving its surrounding communities and to conduct research and creative activities that enhance the intellectual, cultural, environmental, and economic development of the metropolitan region. The Orlando International Airport is a tremendous asset for Central Florida and beyond. and it's developing into a thriving aerotropolis, where communities are built around airports, speedily connecting time-sensitive suppliers, manufacturers, distributors, and business people to distant customers, clients, and marketplaces. So why partner with UCS? I would argue for talent, transformation, research, and innovation. About our talent, UCF has the proven track record of workforce development. According to the 2020 Workforce Study by Aviation Week, UCF is ranked #1 in the supplier of graduates to U.S. aerospace and defense industries for the 5th consecutive year. And second in the nation, only to Georgia Tech in supplying the critical skills needed by employers. For example, 30% of the Kennedy Space Center and 27% of Lockheed Martin Orlando workforces are UCF Knights. Next slide. About transformation, UCF can support the airport's transformation with a proven transformation process. We have a proven track record of supporting organization transformation. The faculty and the Engineering Leadership and Innovation Institute have worked with both government and commercial organizations to help them successfully transform. Their Transforming Organizations, Strategies and Methods process offers us a guide in the development and execution of transformation planning. This transformation process has been used to support the Kennedy Space Center's transformation from a high government involvement in the shuttle program, the conversion from a shuttle-centric spaceport to a multi-user spaceport, and commercial launch services. Next slide, please. About research and innovation, UCF has a proven track record of innovation, research, and research funding. When Chairman Good approached me, we gathered some of our best faculty thinkers with our president and provost to brainstorm potential partnership initiatives with the airport. Of the many initiatives considered, we chose to highlight a state-of-the-art digital twin campus, leveraging our academic and research excellence to represent opportunities at many levels: education, research, economic development, and fundamental changes in society. Digital twins are an integral part of the future of humanity, as they provide a mirror of reality or an enhanced reality in a digital form. It is a digital reproduction of any system, from humans to manufacturing processes to transportation systems, and an endless list of possibilities. The vision for what we're calling the UCF-MCO partnership is to develop a digital twin campus that would be a model for the nation in this emerging technology. The digital twin campus would be a complex of buildings that will house areas for technology development and testing, areas for smart and advanced manufacturing, areas for education and training, and areas for storage and shipping. The long-term goal is to have a one-of-a-kind complex that provides a complete digital twin pipeline from product concept to product in hand. To our knowledge, there are no other efforts in the nation looking at digital twin technology as an integrated pipeline for design, production, maintenance, and training. Digital twin can be applied to many diverse systems or systems of systems, groups of humans, engineered systems, and transportation infrastructure. The combination of innovation, research credibility, and entrepreneurship coming from UCF, combined with the space, location, and infrastructure provided by MCO, would allow for the development of a campus dedicated to digital twin business. This has the potential to increase airport business beyond tourism by attracting industry to settle in the area, developing large-scale training programs that will bring regular trainee traffic to the airport, creating possibilities for innovative manufacturing, increasing cargo traffic both inbound for manufacturing supplies as well as outbound for distribution. UCF has the expertise in all aspects of the pipeline to make this a reality. We have domain experts through engineering, medical, smart cities, and other disciplines. We have the technology infrastructure expertise through the Institute for Training and Simulation, for data sciences, the largest group in the nation in the emerging techs of virtual reality, augmented reality, and user experiences, and 3D printing expertise. Technology deployment and customer satisfaction analysis like hospitality, business programs, industrial technologies and engineering. We have business and tech transfer expertise, and we have the proven success of the Central Park, Florida Research Park attracting industry. The digital twin concept offers the opportunity to partner with our leading industries in this region, many of whom are already using this technology for space, defense, government, energy, and entertainment. The capabilities enabled by the digital twin campus ecosystems are beyond anything that's available today and will put Orlando as the lead area to develop this technology, with MCO and UCF as the cornerstones of this initiative. From more sophisticated designs through expanding the evaluations of a wider range of alternative designs in much greater depth and breadth, to developing advanced manufacturing approaches, to producing much more environmentally friendly products, to faster certification and approvals, and to deeper training and education. So thank you for your time and indulgence as I share with you just one example of the innovation UCF faculty generated in applying their areas of specialty to help our region prosper and lead. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. See, any questions? Any discussion or questions?
I do have one question. In terms of the physical location of this digital campus, would that be in the research park, or would it be located somewhere closer to the international airport?
We are thinking that it would be located on the airport property.
Yeah, that's the objective, is to, there's some uniqueness that we have that other places in town don't have. But the objective, Mayor Dyer, is to generate income and synergy, on campus, of our campus.
Your campus.
Right. But it doesn't work as well on your campus as our campus. Is that correct, Chairman C?
Yes, you have certifications in areas of sound and vibration, many engineering capabilities that would be difficult for us to achieve on our campus. And in addition, while you hear the word digital a lot, digital twin, to make this really work, you need the physical entity as well as the digital entity. And so we will need to attract companies that would like to actually manufacture their products co-located with the digital twin research.
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. Throughout the history of our region, UCF's been involved in most of the various industries that have grown, whether it's the hospitality industry with the Rosen School or the research park for modeling, simulation and training, as well as the simulation center, and then the downtown campus, and of course the medical school related to our healthcare industry here. So I think it makes a lot of sense to extend that partnership opportunity directly to the airport. We have the great advantage that we have a lot of land that we've talked about developing over the course of the last couple of decades, really, and I think we put the airport in a really good position because of long-thinking board members that were here decades ago. So to act on it in partnership with UCF and the things that UCF can bring, I think makes a lot of sense for the airport.
Thank you, Mayor Dyer.
Any other comments, Mr. Martinez, or questions?
I'm looking forward to the results. I think it's great, and to Mayor Deming's question, we do have this land out there that we're able to build on, and this will be kind of exciting, I think. So I'm very much looking forward to it, and I appreciate the presentation very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman C. Appreciate it. And not just you, all of the people on your team, the professors and researchers and the president of the university. I know you put a lot into it, and there's a lot more than what you've shown on these slides. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, before we proceed on to consent agenda, I have a request for the board members.
Yes, sir.
Which is with regard to today's agenda. Please state if you have any conflict of interest to disclose, whether to your knowledge any person has violated the Aviation Authority's lobbying activities policy for any agenda item, and whether to your knowledge any person has communicated with you contrary to the Florida Sunshine Law with respect to today's meeting. Affirmative responses only. Seeing none, we can proceed.
Thank you. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Assume everybody's read it. Do we have any items anyone wishes to remove from the consent agenda? Hearing none, do we have a motion?
Consent agenda.
I would second that motion.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Brown, could you do a roll call?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Good.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Martinez. Vice Chairman Martinez.
Yes, affirmative. Yes.
Mayor Dyer.
Yes.
Mayor Demings.
Yes.
Consent agenda is passed unanimously, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Move on to procurements. Do we need to do this one by one, Mr. Brown?
No, Mr. Chairman, I just, that's for information. If there are any questions that any board members have on any of the procurements, we're happy to address those. If they're not, we can move on to new business.
Hearing none, we'll move on to new business.
No questions.
Got it. New business. Do we take these one by one now?
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of these items we will take one by one. There are group items B through G, which I will present in as a group. The individual board memoranda have the recommended actions on them, but there are a couple of these that are best discussed singly, and then items B through G I will discuss as a group.
Okay. Turn it over to you.
All right, thank you. The first item, item A, is the MCO East Airfield Taxiway rehabilitation and related work. This is work that will include concrete joint replacement, asphalt mill overlay, and various sundry improvements to the runways. On February 20th, 2019, the Aviation Authority approved the award of a design consulting services to AECOM Technical Services. The design will be completed as a one contract in fiscal 2021, with construction work done as two contracts per FAA direction. Construction will begin in fiscal year 2022, and would be done as bid packages 00495, East Airfield Taxiway Rehab and Related Work, Phase 1, and in fiscal 23, bid package 00496, MCO East Airfield Rehabilitation and Related Work, Phase 2. These are a graphic aerial of where the bid packages will be located. These are in the areas over in the East Airfield Complex, and include the taxiways as well as the runway work. The fee that's been negotiated with AECOM Technical Services is a total amount of $1,009,974. The scope is included as described on the slide. This was approved in April by the construction committee as an addendum to the contract. The grant for these services was received in July of 2020, which is why we're now taking the item up, so we have funding. AECOM Technical Services proposes to achieve a 26.6 disadvantaged business enterprise participation for these services, and funding is from 100% FAA grants, which includes both Airport Improvement Program and CARES Act funding. The recommended action is before you on the screen. I'd be happy to take any questions. Hearing no questions, Mr. Chairman, I would ask for a motion.
I hear a motion.
Move approval, Demings.
Have a second?
Second, Martinez.
All those in favor, I'll do a roll call. Go ahead.
Roll call. Chairman Good.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Martinez.
Yes.
Mayor Dyer.
Yes.
Mayor Jennings.
Yes.
Motion is unanimous, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Next item?
Next item are these items all pertain to South Terminal C Phase 1, Orlando International Airport. This includes the new business items that are in the board packet individually with items B through G. These items are for to accommodate changes in work and continued project management services for fiscal 2021. The first item, this is the aerial showing the areas in which the work is going to be conducted in the South Terminal Complex. The first item, new business item D, is an addendum to an award to Hensel Phelps for construction services related to the South Terminal C Phase 1. There was a negotiated GMP. There have been 7 amendments revising the GMP since 2018. The total amount of those previous amendments totals $172,414,591. This amendment 8 increases the owner's contingency associated with bonds and fees, as well as anticipated subcontract modifications as a result of the progression of the airside terminal design and other components. The amount of this amendment is $1,387,557. This amendment is funded by the reduction of funds from BPS 00168, which was GMP number 6-S.4, which was a prior consent item in which the contingency amounts were reduced. There's no impact to the program schedule, and the project is scheduled to be completed in February of 2022. With this approval of amendment, the total GMP amount will be $173,802,148. It has no impact on small business participation. The fiscal impact, as I mentioned, is $1,387,557. Funding is from passenger facility charges to the extent that the projects are eligible, and general airport revenue bonds. New business items C, D, E, and F all relate to owner's authorized representative services for the South Terminal C Phase 1. The list of OARs that are working on South Terminal is listed in the bullet points on the slide in front of you. Geotechnical Consultants International, Cost Management, Inc., CMTS Construction Management Services, Kraus Manning, and ND5, formerly known as Page 1 Consultants. The items that are before you apply to CMI for change management in the amount of $2,945,847.50. CMI for technical support for $2,043,396. CMTS OAR services for a fee of $1,550,336, and NVOAR services for $2,314,272. The Aviation Authority has reviewed the proposal to determine that due to the specialized nature required the services, MWBE, LDD, and DBE participation is not proposed on the agenda with Cost Management, Inc., CMTS services. There is a 28.5% for MWB participation proposed with NV5 Inc. The fiscal impact in aggregate is $8,853,851.50. Funding is from general airport revenue bonds. The recommendations for all of these items individually appear in your packet. The next item is G. Item G, on August 19, 2015, the Aviation Authority Board approved the technology and multimedia engineering agreement for South Terminal C, Phase 1 with Burns Engineering. On July 21st, 2020, the Construction Committee recommended approval of an addendum to contract with Burns for fiscal 21 services related to construction for a total amount of $1,810,178. The services will include assistance to the authority in areas of technology and multimedia implementation, oversight, coordination, and construction administration. The services will be effective from October 1st, 2020 through September 20th, 2021. Burns Engineering proposes an MWBE participation of 2.4% on this addendum. Fiscal impact is $1,810,178. Funding is from general airport revenue bonds. So it is respectfully requested that the Authority Board resolve to approve the recommended actions for new business B, C, D, E, F, and G as outlined in the memoranda in the agenda and the package that was submitted to you and has been posted.
Move approval.
Have a second? Do we have a roll call?
Yes, sir. Chairman Good.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Martinez.
Yes.
Mayor Dyer.
Yes.
Mayor Jennings.
Yes.
The motion was approved unanimously, Mr. Chairman.
Good. What's the next item?
Next item is Amendment 5 for Carole King Landscape Purchasing Contract 3-17. Contract is for terminal landscape maintenance and management services at Orlando International Airport with Carole King Landscape. Purchasing contract commenced on December 1st, 2016 with an initial period of 36 months and 2 one-year renewals. The purchasing contract's first renewal term is scheduled to expire on November 30, 2020. There are no rate increases proposed or requested this time. The total cost of the purchasing contract is determined by the actual work requested and approved by the authority. The contract includes a goal of 45% for MWBE participation and 11% for local developing business participation. Office of Small Business Development has certified the purchasing contract as good standing regarding the participation goals. The fiscal year impact for 1 year is $1,438,995.03. Funding is from the Operations and Maintenance Fund. Happy to take any questions. Recommended action is before you, Mr. Chairman, on the screen.
Do we have a motion?
Approval.
Second.
Second. Second.
A roll call vote?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Good.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Martinez.
Yes.
Mayor Dyer.
Yes.
Mayor Jennings.
Yes.
Motion is approved unanimously, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Next item?
Next item will be presented by the Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Kathleen Sharman. And we will switch the screen sharing at this point.
Uh-oh. So thank you for using WebEx. Sorry.
It didn't switch.
We're working on it, sir. I know. Yes, right there. Thank you, Danny. While Danny's doing this, I just want to congratulate you, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Vice Chairman and Mr. Treasurer, on your election.
Thank you.
Almost ready. Please.
Tell her to move you as presenter. Hold on 1 second.
Oh, okay. 1 second. Sorry about this. Can you see my screen? Can you see my screen? Okay. Can they see it?
I think it's up.
Okay. Don't go from beginning. Just go from. Well, I apologize so much for this technical difficulty. Okay, here we go. Good afternoon again, everybody. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, Mr. Mayors. I am pleased to present to you the Greater Orlando Aviation Authority's fiscal 2020-2021 budget for your consideration today. Our budget objective, of course, is to keep operating the terminal in a safe and secure. Not there? Sorry. Bill, do you want to take it back, and I'll just do it back?
I think I've got it. We've got it on the budget objective page.
Okay.
Can everybody see?
Bill's got it. I'm not sure.
I think we're going to switch presenters back. Just a moment.
Yeah.
We've got that. I think I've got it. At least it seems to be
Up on
moving.
the screen right now.
I wanted to practice that. I can't see it though. Tell me when I can go.
Are you able to look at this display?
I can't see your screen, but if it's up there and everybody else can see, I'm good.
Let me, Chairman Good, can you see the screen? Does it say budget objective?
No, it does not.
All right.
Does anybody else see that?
No, I can't. Do you want us to go to our materials, the hard copy? I mean, the materials we were sent?
Hold stuff up in front of the camera.
Wait, I thought I saw it there for a second. Can you see it now, guys?
Yes.
Okay,
Well,
hold on.
we see something.
Okay, let me.
Here.
I can get this. I'm almost here. No, not view. Slideshow. I'm almost there. On current slide. How about now? We there? Yes? No?
No.
No.
But getting close.
Oh, sorry. Oh, okay.
Mr. Brown, we can see your screen and we can see the presentation. Well, we can see you going through the presentations right now.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to get to the budget. There we go.
Okay.
Got it.
Okay. All right, next slide, sir. Okay, the objective that we want to operate a safe terminal, and as in previous years, a world-class.
I can't hear you.
Seriously?
I hear her fine.
That's
Okay.
I can hear.
Okay. All right. Let's go to the next slide. Departing, next slide, Phil. Yeah, there you go. As you all know too well, the COVID-19 pandemic has had a dramatic effect on passenger traffic. In April, we were down as low as 96% of our pre-COVID estimates. June and July, we've rebounded back to about 70% of pre-COVID estimates, and that is pretty much tracking with the national average. Next slide, sir. The drop in traffic has caused us to significantly revise our passenger traffic estimates. This chart is a chart we showed you in May, demonstrates how we obtained our forecast by taking various forecasts from aviation experts and combining them for a weighted average. You can see in 2019 we had nearly 50 million passengers through the airport. In 2020, our estimates are down to 26.7 million, and in 2021, 25.3 million or 12.6 million enplanements, and that's the estimates that we're using as the basis of this budget. Next slide. Thank you, Phil. Before I get into explaining the changes from last year, I just wanted to give you a brief overview of the process. It's a lengthy process. It takes a lot of people. I wanted to thank the directors and in particular thank my staff, Marie Dennis, Andrea Harper, Magali Rosario, and Danielle Jenkins for their hard work on this. And I just wanted to take a second to let you know that we were just recently notified by the Government Finance Officers Association that we received the Distinguished Budget Award presentation for our 2020 budget. The next step in the process is a public hearing on September 8th. And now this slide shows you our cost centers, our airfield costs. In order to budget airline revenue, you have to first obtain the costs. We have the two in the top shaded in blue. The airfield cost center is a residual cost center. That means the airlines pay for all the costs to operating the airfield through the landing fee. The terminal cost center is calculated on a compensatory basis, and that is where the airlines only pay for what they use through a terminal rental rate on a per square foot basis. Rates are calculated based on the budgeted operating and maintenance expenses and debt service costs in accordance with the methodology, and you most recently approved that methodology last year. The other cost centers that are shaded in green, there are non-aeronautical cost centers. These rates are set periodically by the board, or in the case of the hotel, by the hotel operator in accordance with our hotel management agreement. Next slide. This next slide is our airfield cost center calculation. You can see that in 2020, 57.1 million, and in 2021, 56.6 million, a slight decrease. However, the landed fee rate is going to go up by $1.71 from $2.02 in 2020 to $3.73 in 2021, and what's driving that is the significant decrease in projected landed weights from 28.1 million per 1,000 pounds to 15.1 million. So that's what's driving the landed rate to go up. Here's our calculation of our terminal cost center. We do similarly, we gather all the costs to operate the terminal. We have a net requirement of $208 million. That's slightly less than last year. The rentable square foot stayed the same at 1.4 million. So the terminal premises rental rate actually decreased by $1.20 from $141 to $140. Here's the fees that we just talked about in green, the landing fee and the terminal rate. Apron fees, airline equipment have gone down because of our reductions in the O&M budget. The baggage fees have gone up, and again, driving that is the enplaned passengers that have significantly decreased from 25.7 million to 12.6 million. Takeaway here, though, is that the CPE for participating airlines is $13.90, which is an increase of $8.58. This CPE is in the range of other large hub airports in Florida, and with the exception of Miami, which is even higher. Next slide. So, this is how overall our FY21 budget compares with FY20. 443 million in gross revenues, which does include CARES Act funding of 83.4 million. And just a reminder about the CARES Act funding, that the CARES Act is a reimbursable grant. So we have to spend money whether on O&M or debt service in order to get the money back. We can't just use the money for lost revenue. So that's an important concept as we move through this. Moving down to O&M, we have 320 million in expenses. That's a $30 million reduction from last year. Debt service is an increase of 43 million. That is due to our 2017A subordinated debt bonds. The capitalized interest period has run out, so we have an additional 43 million in debt service. That we will be using CARES money to fund that, to help offset that cost. The remaining revenues highlighted in yellow down there, though, is only $8 million compared with $167.5 million in last year. You may recall that we usually spend about $55 million on heavy capital maintenance or CIRs. We've reduced that budget to $40 million this year, and I want to assure you we're going to be very carefully monitoring how we spend that money and only use it on things we absolutely need. We'll still have to tap into our reserves to repair if we need to. And as you can see, due to this drop, we will not be sharing revenue with the airlines, as we don't share any revenue with the airlines below $55 million. What's also important to note, though, is that this budget does satisfy all our legal coverage requirements, and you see that down below with the debt service at 2.14. Next slide, sir. This is a revenue allocation of our revenues by type. The blue shaded areas are the airfield or the airline cost centers, and that's about 40% of our revenue, leaving 60% of our revenue, including CARES, from non-aeronautical sources. Next slide, Phil. This next slide shows you our non-aeronautical revenue compared between fiscal 20 and 21. You can see it's 182.5 million lower. Parking and commercial lane of about 52 million reduction, and rental cars about 49, about $50 million also. So significant drop in non-airline revenue. Next slide. These are the major changes in revenue. We just talked about that ground transportation revenue, that 102 million, which is rental cars, commercial lanes, and parking. The next there is $33 million decrease in concession revenue. This does take into account the reduction in passenger traffic, as well as the relief program that we will be recommending to you later today. That breakdown is advertising about $2.5 million reduction, food and beverage 14.1, general merchandise 9.3, and services $7.4 million reduction. We also are budgeting a $28 million reduction in the hotel due to decreased occupancies, less group business, and the baggage fees are also decreasing by $19.4 million, and that is a result of less passengers, but also because we have less than 45 million passengers going through the terminal, our rate methodology does have a vacancy factor, which is also kicking in, and that's reducing our revenue there as well. Next slide. This is a allocation of our expenditures, $320 million in operating and maintenance expenses. The largest piece of that pie is personnel at 29%. We have not included any increases in personnel or headcount in this budget, and we are currently under a hiring freeze. Next slide, Phil, where I'll explain the changes in expenditures. So really, the reason for all of these decreases is the same reason. It's COVID and the drop in passengers. And as you know, the authority outsources a lot of functions, which does make it a little bit easier to reduce costs in times like this. So with respect to the major changes, $12.8 million decrease in other professional services relating to extension of staff, reducing hours in customs and border protection, as well as security contracts. The $10 million reduction in management contracts has to do with the hotel primarily, as well as the decrease in the parking operator contract, offset slightly by an increase in Orlando Police Department expenses. The other decreases are listed for your information, and then we have two increases, an increase in property and casualty insurance. We do bid that. That's just the going rates, as well as we've added money in the budget for janitorial. Okay, next slide. That actually concludes the information for Orlando International, and so moving to Orlando Executive. Next slide. Next slide. You can see here that Orlando Executive has a balanced budget, $4 million. We are anticipating $531,000 in CARES Act funding. The changes in aviation-related revenue are related to our FBO operations out there, and then the reduction in commercial properties is related to certain vacancies at Colonial Promenade. The expenses are pretty much decreases across the board with the exception of safety and security, and all related to COVID. Next slide, Phil. This shows a breakdown of our revenues and expenses, and the point here that I want to make is that you can see the revenues 60%, and with CARES, 70% of our revenues is from commercial properties, and we will be having a major focus on developing commercial properties out at Orlando Executive in the coming year. So with that, as you can see, this budget is fiscally responsible, focusing our limited resources in the areas of safety and security to support operations to provide a clean and safe airport that will instill confidence in the traveling public, hopefully encouraging airlines to return capacity to our airport, our 3C plan. I respectfully request that the Aviation Authority consider the motion before you and approve the $443,356,263 operating budget for Orlando International Airport and $4,083 million for Orlando Executive Airport, as well as the other actions on this slide. And at this point, I'd be happy to take any questions and apologize for the technical difficulties.
Questions?
How much is this budget reduced from last year's budget?
It is a reduction of, if you go back to a little bit further, like right there. So 589 to 430 to 593 to 443. So like 233 million reduction.
Thank you.
That's all right.
Other questions? Do we have any speakers on this item?
Not on this item, sir.
Hearing no comments or questions further, do I have a motion?
So moved, Demings.
And a second?
Second, Martinez.
Could we have a roll call, Mr. Brown?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Good.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Martinez.
Yes.
Mayor Dyer.
Yes.
Mayor Demings.
Yes.
The budget passes unanimously, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Next item.
Yes, sir. The next item is the recommendation of the Capital Management Committee to update the fiscal year 2018-2025 capital improvement plan. As you recall, back in May, we discussed with you some changes to the capital improvement plan that we thought were going to be necessary, particularly with regard to the South Terminal. The slide in front of you just really reinforces the notion that this is capital funding is a continuous process, and there are always going to be adjustments. And in this case, the adjustments are driven by the decrease in traffic, which you have seen, as well as changes in collections of revenues. So the last update to the CIP was approved by the board in May of 2019. There was an amendment on August 28th of 2019. And then January 15th of 2020, there was approval to create and implement the following projects and incorporate into the next CIP update. The next slide, as you've seen before, just reinforces that our passenger traffic has dropped. We're starting to gradually recover, but we are tracking at about 30% of our pre-COVID capacity, our pre-COVID volumes. And it looks like, at least for the months of August and September, we're going to be relatively flat. On a daily basis, we're experiencing about 20,000 departing passengers through the weekdays, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's usually a little bit lower, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Monday, it tends to increase a little. We are celebratory when we reach 25,000. We've come close a couple of days, but we have not quite crested that volume as of late. Again, this is sort of shows you where we are in comparison to the top 20 airports on average. We are tracking those. Some airports are doing better than others. Both Denver and DFW, as of recently, seem to have had along the order of 40 to 50% of their pre-COVID traffic. Some of that's due to the nature of the flights that come into those airports. They're both large hub airports. So there are no surprises going forward, on August 7th, Standard & Poor's rating agency released a negative credit watch on all airports in the U.S. aviation industry. They are concerned, as are the airport operators, frankly, about the stress that the COVID pandemic has placed on airports. What that means ultimately is that in all likelihood, unless things recover, then there will be downgrades throughout the airport sector. What a downgrade means for each individual airport is usually a higher cost of interest in order to access the capital markets. So we want to make sure that everybody's prepared to recognize this. The other major rating agencies have not taken this step yet, but they are all watching airports very cautiously. And Ms. Sharman has conversations and discussions with all the major rating agencies on a very regular basis when they ask for updates. You've seen this slide before, and I think the takeaway from this is that if you look at our forecast period, which is 2018, or CIP period, which is 2018 through 25, you will note the change in traffic from 2019, 46% reduction in estimated in 2020, 49% in 2021, and then it starts to gradually recover until 2025, when we think that we will be approaching pre-COVID levels. The story for us is really in the next two slides, graphically. This is a slide of our passenger facility collections. That's the $4.50 that's added to the ticket price when individuals embark on a flight and fly out of Orlando International. This red line indicates where we thought the PFC levels would be when we issued bonds back in September of 2019. The difference is in the green line, which is what is based on our forecast. PFCs are a function of enplanements, so there's a gap. And 44% of the current South Terminal Complex plan is funded with PFCs. So we're going to need to make an adjustment, which is why we are before you today with this item. The same can be said of customer facility charges. That's $3.50 per day, up to a maximum of 7 days, that are added to rental car rental transactions. They've been used for projects beneficial to rental car companies, and 5% of the current South Terminal Complex plan of finance have been using customer facility charges. When we forecasted back in December, which is the orange line, we were expecting a lot different than we're starting to realize now, which is the green dotted line. So the changes in large part that we're making and recommending to you are because we don't have the revenues to sustain the funding for the projects that we had originally planned. The adjustments that we have made in the capital improvement program are in various categories. This is a summary of those. The total is $360 million, which is in the middle column, the bottom. Those changes, the largest change, which you would expect, is in the South Terminal C Phase 1 expansion. The program that we're recommending is eliminating basically the expansion projects. Originally, we had planned to have 16 gates. We're now added 3 more gates with the expansion project. Now we're going back to 15 gates. In addition, there's some areas in South Terminal C Phase 1, $54 million, $49 million in North Terminal Complex adjustments, $14 million in airfield, ground transportation, which for the most part are roadways and rental automobile car projects, is reduced by $45 million. And then there are other projects we're reducing a total of $26 million. Concept design, we're adding $1 million so that we can be ready when traffic comes back with a concept for the next expansion. The proposed funding plan obviously has to be adjusted. We've been fortunate and worked closely with the Florida DOT and received up to $18 million more in grants that we put into the South Terminal. We're reducing a net of $4 million in authority funds. Pay-go for PSCs and bonds, we're reducing $157 million. Airport revenue bonds, $117 million. Customer facility charges, $65 million. And other, $35 million. I'll describe the other in more detail in just a minute. This is a test of your reading ability. This is the detailed CIP that we formally put in our offering documents when we go out to the capital markets. The terminal net changes. These are the details of the changes that we have implemented in the North Terminal. You can see that the largest change is airline terminal improvements. There are some improvements that we had budgeted over the period from 2018 to 2025 for airline terminal improvements. We are deferring those at this point. We're also making some adjustments on some monies that we were looking to repurpose Airside 1 FIS when we were looking at moving airlines down to the south. We will still move airlines to the south, but we're going to take a minimalist approach in terms of repurposing the FIS on Airside 1. We will need to keep it under heat and air and keep it operating, but we're not going to be looking at any major repurposing expenditures at this point. Something important to note, we're also adding in some adjustments. Health and safety renovations are things that we're going to need to do in order to make sure that we instill the confidence that customers and passengers want coming into an airport. So there's some security improvements that we're going to continue to make, and there's some health improvements we're going to continue making, looking at areas where we can improve cleaning and things of that nature. In the airfield, the net changes really are going to be focusing on a rehabilitation of runway 18 left, 36 right. We had anticipated early on making some improvements to accommodate Group 6 aircraft. Group 6 is the category that the Airbus 380, the Behemoth, falls in. Those are falling into lack of use at this point, not many of them flying. We don't anticipate that we're going to have a lot of A380 traffic here, so we're deferring those improvements on the runways. The other adjustments on 17 right and 35 left and the taxiway J rehabilitation are similar types of modifications to the airfield. We're not doing anything that we don't need to do to maintain the caliber and the strength of the airfield, but these are things that we don't have to do that we had programmed in that we're going to defer or eliminate. In terms of ground transportation, the biggest changes are in the future rental car related projects and the South Terminal QTA. As you recall, in May, when we presented to you the waivers for the rental car companies, we had an obligation to build a South Terminal complex quick turnaround area. We have, are not going to do that, so that was to be funded from customer facility charges, so we're reducing that. And there's some other future RAC-related projects, rental automobile concession projects that we had on the books that we're not going to fund at this point either. Other changes, the biggest change is the East Fuel Farm. We have on the East Airfield a plan for a fuel farm that was always envisioned to be a 3P project. We don't see the necessity for it at this point in time, and we're going to defer that and take that out of the CIP for the period 2018 to 2025. Our estimated construction for the South Terminal is still on track for February of 2022. We're about 60% complete at this point. These are the budget reductions in the South Terminal and by line item. The largest reductions, as you can see, are in the airside concourse, as well as some airfield and apron and other, which are general requirements, insurance. We're reducing some of the insurance because we don't have as many facilities to insure at this point, and the ARC program. This is an aerial depiction of what areas we're deferring. This is the airside concourse, which would have had jumbo gates there. We're not going to need that at this point in time, so we're deferring that. The next portion is the ground transportation facility corridor. Originally, our plan was to complete the boulevard from the ITF, which is at the bottom of the screen, all the way through the land side. What we're going to do is defer this GTF corridor here. It's very expensive to build. A lot of it was going to be funded by customer facility charges. Passengers parking at the garage and going to the South Terminal will exit their cars and walk along an area that will be dedicated walkways in the parking garage. They will come out to the concourse level in the purple area, and then they will move on to the land side and air side after they move through security. This is a aerial of the area where the quick turnaround area was to be constructed, so that is going to be deferred. That concludes the portion of the deferrals. Again, the funding plan for the South Terminal is a reduction of $227 million. We've gotten $18 million additional FDOT grants. Authority funds we're reducing by $16 million. PFC PAYGO, $140 million, as well as bond funds that would be used for future bond payments. Airport revenue bonds, those are future airport revenue bonds. We're reducing the size of future issues. CFC funds, we're reducing $26 million for the total of $227 million. Again, this is the pie chart showing you the allocation of the funding choices for the sources for the revised CIP. This is really the story. We had planned back in September to go to the market October of 2021 for $522 million. Through the adjustments that we proposed, we've been able to reduce that down to $296 million. And we'll continue to monitor that situation to see if there are any ways that we can minimize the future borrowings until we have such revenue stream that will be sufficient to cover that. The real reductions, again, are in PFCs, particularly the PAYGO. It's a total of $134 million in the PFC PAYGO. What we're doing to fund PFCs, at the end of 2019, our fiscal year, September 30, we had $350 million in our fund balance for PFCs. As you can see, it's anticipated at the end of this fiscal year, September 30, it will be $261 million. And that will gradually reduce down to a low point in 2023 of 30 million. And then as traffic starts to recover and we start to collect more PFCs, those balances for fund balance will start to go back up. The total of the CFC pay-go is $64 million. There was proposed CIP, we've reduced 69, and then a current CIP of 5 to a net of 64. Again, it's a similar story on the CFC balance. 2019, we're at 81.6. We will go to a low, working off that balance to make sure that we can make our payments to our lender for CFC loans that we have outstanding, and to a low point of 12.8 in 2024. And then as traffic and activity with rental cars begins to increase, we expect to see higher collections of CFCs. What this means in terms of our key metrics, debt service coverage, Ms. Sharman's already covered this. Our forecast for 2021 is 2.14 times our senior lien. Our subordinate lien is 1.23 times. We will still meet our necessary requirements pursuant to our bond resolutions, but it is going to be a tight situation going forward. As you can see, it won't be until 2024 that we start to see significant changes in our coverage. And in terms of the participating airlines and the cost per enplanement, you've seen the graphic on this 2021 budget, and it starts to fluctuate. Some of this is due to some of the costs that we've capitalized in bond issues that will reduce some of the requirements. But in general, we are going to be in double-digit cost per enplanements for the remainder of the CIP program. This is the net reductions by funding source. As you can see, again, the major funding reductions: PFC pay-go, airport revenue bonds, CFCs. And this is the projects. The South Terminal project accounts for $2.8 billion of a $3.8 billion program. Terminal enhancements, another $700 million. Airfield, $138 million, and $123 in ground transportation and others. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to take any questions on the CIP, and before you is the recommended action for the board.
I do have a question, Mr. Chairman, if this is an appropriate time to ask it.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Brown, with the deferred construction projects, has 100% of the design been completed associated with those projects?
No, sir, not all of them has been designed. For example, the QTA has not been designed. The reason that we chose the construction manager at risk is that we can go along and design some of those as we need. So some of these projects have been designed to some extent, but it has not been completed. For example, the area for the concourse, the south concourse that we're deferring, we had some design work, but it was not 100% complete.
And I guess as a follow-up, are we still paying for any design for associated with any of the deferred construction?
What we're paying for, Mayor Demings, is that we have to complete some design work because we're going to have to modify where we ended the project. If you think about it, we had a whole concourse that we were going to add on, and so we had some systems that were going to go extend out there, so we're going to have to terminate some of those. So we do have some ongoing modification in design that we're doing to accommodate these changes. So is some continued design, but it's really to complete the design so that we at least have a project that makes design sense. You really can't just stop when you've got portions of the work designed. You're going to have to design some of the systems to be smaller. For example, the baggage system. We're going to have to do some redesign to accommodate the changes in the baggage system because that was to be extended out into that concourse area as well. But we've limited that to, the number, I don't recall off the top of my head, but we can get you the number and the design costs that we're expecting to expend or have expended in that regard.
Okay, I was just curious how we're managing that going forward. If there's a document that I can review, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, comment, not a question. I just want to commend staff on both the preliminary budget and the CIP. This isn't easy work when you're trying to call millions of dollars and make sure that we're fiscally prudent and responsible with the funds that we have and keeping the airport operating right in the midst of the biggest construction project we've ever undertaken. So I just wanted to tell you we appreciate the hard work that's gone into this.
Yes. Any other questions? To clarify the presentation with Bev C earlier, it relates right back to this. You can see how helpful it would have to have, like Dallas does, a couple $100 million worth of predictable income to fill in these gaps from our land leases from people like military, pharmaceuticals, and this working with staff over the last couple of months has just made it clear to staff and all of us that our long-term plan has to be put us in a position where we have extra augmented rental income that's solid that can cover us in the unfortunate event this happens again. And staff has done a fantastic job. Do I have a motion?
Move approval.
Second?
Second.
A roll call?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Good.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Martinez.
Yes.
Mayor Dyer.
Yes.
Mayor Demings.
Yes.
It's unanimous, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Next item.
Yes, sir. This is the recommendation to approve a supplemental interminal concession and rental automobile company relief program resolution. There are actually two resolutions that will be for your consideration. Just to refresh your memory, in May, we had offered 90-day deferral of fixed rents to airlines, concessions, the option of 90-day minimum annual guarantee or MAG deferral or waiver. And there was an option for them offered. In the rental automobile companies, we offered a 90-day minimum annual guarantee waiver in exchange for the elimination of the requirement for us to build the South Terminal quick turnaround area. These are the resolutions through August 5th of this year that have been approved. As you'll note, there were deferrals, a total of $15.8 million in deferrals. Waivers, there was a total approved of $14.8 million in waivers. The breakdown by category, airlines and cargo in the first two rows, and then concessions and the deferrals, $2.15 million. Rental cars, again, it was waivers. This represents just enterprise. We're in, I think, at least animated discussions with the remaining two rental cars that were subject to this resolution. And then the concessions, we had almost $8 million, a little more than $8 million of waivers that were exercised by in-terminal concessions. These are the airlines that took advantage of the 90-day deferral of fixed costs, including Federal Express on the cargo airline side. This slide shows you on the left, at the bottom left, the concessions that took deferrals. There were 8 concessions that took deferrals, 13 that took waivers, and then 1 rental car waiver that was approved. On your right, the chart on the right lists all of the in-terminal concessions that exercise the waiver option, as well as at the bottom, enterprise rental car. What we're proposing for your consideration today in the form of two resolutions, one for in-terminal concessions and one for rental automobile concessions, would be to defer August and September minimum annual guarantees. And this is the monthly portion of the annual guarantees. This deferral can be converted into a waiver if the in-terminal concessions or the rental car concessions remain current in their obligations to the authority. If they don't remain current, the deferred amounts, the August amount deferred, would be due April of 2021, and the September amount would be due May of 2021. What we're also proposing is a waiver of 50% of the minimum annual guarantees for both rental car and for in-terminal concessions for the period October 20 through March of 2021. There are conditions on this. They must submit an executed resolution by September 4th, which should give, considering this is August 19th, should give ample time. And the approval of the resolution is subject to certain conditions. They must be current in their payments to the authority through August 31st of 2020. If other federal or state relief is received, waivers are null and void. Other conditions similar to the May resolution, which Mr. Gerber stands ready to present to you, would be incorporated into the resolution as well. Our estimate, if everyone exercises the convertible deferrals and they convert, as well as the waivers, 50% waivers, that will be a total package of $47.6 million. That is a fairly substantial amount, and the impact that it will have on the authority's unrestricted cash balances is as follows. This graphic shows that at the end of April, or excuse me, at the beginning of April of 2020, we had 359 days of operating cash. Just to refresh your memories, operating cash is calculated by taking your operating budget and dividing that by 365 days so that you get your days cash. We expect by the end of September, from everything they've done, plus the fact that we're not collecting revenues regularly now, that it will be depleted to $311 million, or excuse me, 311 days. And then by the end of the calendar year, December 31st, we expect that with the implementation, this again assumes the implementation of the 50% MAG reduction to 267, it will be a low point at March of next year when the 50% program expires of 254 days cash. So that is less than 3/4 of a year, slightly more than half a year of unrestricted cash reserves. That is the lowest I think that we can comfortably deal with. And that will require us to be very, and I shouldn't have said comfortable because it's going to take us a lot of diligence for us to be able to maintain the cash balances with all the activities that are going on and with potentially unintended events occurring. This is all going to be predicated ultimately on us trying to meet the forecast. If our forecast is less than what we have predicted in the slides that you've seen today, then we're going to have major challenges. So again, I think the rationale from the staff standpoint in offering this opportunity is it's going to be difficult for many of the in-terminal concessionaires to make the minimum guarantee payments. This would offer them at least 6 months of relief in the next fiscal year from that maximum minimum annual guarantee, but it would also balance the scales for us that we could hopefully receive some of this revenue. I've noted to some of you before, in June we had some some challenges. We had a negative cash flow of $20 million in June. We were able to make some collections in July, so the cash flow wasn't as drastic as $20 million. But ultimately, going forward, any recovery is going to depend on our ability to receive more traffic and for the economy in Central Florida to pick back up again. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to take any questions, and I know that we have speakers on this topic that Mr. Gerber stands ready to recognize when the time becomes appropriate.
And Mr. Chairman, I do have a request from a member of the board to take a short break, maybe a 5-minute recess.
Okay. We are recessed for 5 minutes.
Let me give some instructions on the recess. Of course, you're still in a public meeting, so the public meeting rules still apply. What I ask is that you turn your cameras off, turn your mics off, and then we'll resume at 3:30 or so. 3:31.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Yes. We are ready. Would you like to proceed, Mr. Brown?
Roll back.
Yeah, I think we're at this point, we're ready to take the public input unless there are questions from board members on the resolution.
Are there any board member questions?
No.
Okay. We'd like to open it up to questions or comments from the public.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With your permission, I'll recognize people in the order in which their public speaker requests were received. For the public speakers, what we're going to do is call your name. Ms. Bowe will unmute you, and then I'll let you know that you're unmuted and ready to go. We have 13 speaker requests for this single item. Most of the speaker requests seem to be identically generated. So what we're going to ask is that you do your best to limit your comments to 2 minutes. Mr. Clinton, we did receive your request also, and you will be fined for 3 minutes. However, look, the Aviation Authority wants to hear from each and every one of you, and we ask that your comments not duplicate one another as much as possible. If for some reason the unmuting remotely does not work, please email your comments directly to the speaker request email address to which you previously sent your speaker request, and we will get your comments immediately as quickly as possible to each board member. So the first speaker will be Courtney Monroe. Courtney Monroe. Ms. Bowe, if you can unmute Courtney Monroe. Ms. Monroe, you're recognized. Go ahead, Ms. Monroe.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. I come to you today as a concerned Orange County citizen and airport concessions worker. The company that I've worked for the past 7 years, HMS Host, is here again asking for a rental reprieve. We understand the importance of businesses surviving as a growing concern. However, your greater responsibility is to the people that breathe life into this business. We value the work that we do, and we value our contribution to the success of the hospitality industry here in Orlando, Florida. Our voices are not being heard or taken seriously. We will not be silenced or replaced. The concession workers that make up your airport need your help to ensure that HMS Host calls all of its furloughed workers back when the airport business resumes. All you have to do is vote yes to this fair recall policy. What we are asking for is within the scope of your duties. We need your support so HMS Host does not continue to take advantage of us in this time of crisis. Stand with us, fight for us, and make sure the fair recall policy is implemented here as a condition of their rental relief today, like it has been in many other airports around the country. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Monroe. The next speaker will be Lucretia Lewis. Lucretia Lewis. Ms. Bowe, if you can unmute Ms. Lucretia Lewis. Ms. Lewis,
Hello.
you are unmuted. You have the floor.
Hello. I'm a HMS worker, and I work at the Starbucks location. I'm on the side for them. I'm taking care of my newborn brother in the middle of this terrifying pandemic. When COVID-19 first hit Orlando, I was pregnant and scared for the simple fact that HMS Health did not do enough to protect me and my fellow coworkers. We don't trust this company, and neither should you. You are smart business people, and I'm sure you know the kind of promises in any of your own city, county, or business transactions. Oh my God, excuse me. I'm sure you insist on getting everything in writing and legally enforced. Do not let HMS Host hustle this airport and their workers with unforeseeable promises. According to the letter I received from HMS Host last week, my employment with HMS Host will end in October 15th. That's less than 60 days from today. Will you reward this company by handing them millions of dollars in additional rent relief? They reported to the investors last night that they have already received over $82 million in lease addendums in the first half of this year. They're laughing all the way to the bank. I challenge the board to stand up for the local workers and attach I'm in the bathroom, a fair recall policy to any relief package for insurance officers. One vote for any of you on the board will save my job and my future. You most vote for me and my daughter today. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. The next speaker will be Maria E. Gonzalez. Just know if you can unmute Ms. Gonzalez.
Okay, hi. Okay, hello, my name is Maria Gonzalez. I work for HMS Host at the Sabaros restaurant. I really enjoy my working at the Orlando Airport. I'm eager to come back to work whenever my restaurant reopens. I am sad and angry that my unemployment is now only $230 a week. With so little money, I cannot pay my bills or afford to remove the mold that is growing in my house. This puts my mother's health at risk because she suffers from asthma. Now I'm faced with a distressing possibility that Host could replace me with someone new they hire off the street because the company is making my furlough permanent if I don't get recalled back on October 15th. I am appalled that this board will even consider granting more rent relief to HMS Host without requiring a fair recall policy. The owners of HMS Host actually increased their cash balance this year by 67% in the midst of the pandemic. Meanwhile, the airport is having to scale back its expansion plans, and airport workers are facing eviction and hunger. I challenge this board to stand up for local workers and attach a fair recall policy to any relief package for HMS Host. One vote from any of you on this board will save my job and my future. You must vote for me and my family today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker on this item is DeLon Stokes. Just so if you can unmute DeLon Stokes. DeLon Stokes, you're recognized.
Hello, my name is DeLon Stokes. I'm a server at Macaroni Grill for HMS Host. Last week on August 10th and 11th, both Mayor Demings and Dyer stopped me and several other of my coworkers for voicing our concerns about HMS Host. And on Friday, August 14th, I and 700 other coworkers received a letter from HMS Host. It says that HMS Host will make our furlough permanent if they do not recall us by October 15th. This means that after October 15th, Host will be allowed to reopen Macaroni Grill and other restaurants with new workers they hire from the outside. Host has the power to fire me from my job, from the job that I love, and perform with care and professionalism for over 2 years. But they are seeking another $2.5 million in rent relief. One vote from any of you gentlemen. From any of you gentlemen on this board will not only save my job, but the job of my coworkers and our futures as well. Each and every one of you has the power today to refuse to give away millions in rent relief unless it includes a requirement for a fair recall. You must vote for our city and the residents you swore you would protect when you took office. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker to be recognized is Hilda Renteria Hernandez. Just go if you can unmute Hilda Renteria Hernandez. Ms. Hernandez.
Good afternoon. My name is Hilda Renteria Hernandez. I work as a server for HMS Host at Chili's 2. I received a letter from HMS Host last week saying that Host will make my layoff permanent if I am not recalled back to work by October 15th. I am dismayed at the company's flippant disregard for workers like me. It is our labor that generates profit for HMS Host. Host is controlled by the Benetton family, referred to in the Wall Street Journal as one of Italy's most famous business dynasties, with an empire that includes major infrastructure such as roads and airports, telecommunications, banking, agricultural firms, and even a rugby team. Their assets were valued at $13.8 billion at the end of 2019. HMS Host doesn't deserve or need any more hands out, but I need the security that my job is safe, no matter how long it takes for our airport to recover. I challenge this board to stand up for local workers and attach a fair recall policy to any relief package for HMS Host. One vote from any of you on this board will save my job and my future. Please put the needs of Orange County and Orlando workers above the interests of this billionaire company that is asking you for another handout. You must vote for me and my family today. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. The next to be recognized is Yanina Ochoa. Ms. Bo, if you can unmute Yanina Ochoa. Yanina Ochoa, you are recognized to speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. My name is Yanina Ochoa, and I work for HMS House at the Moss Restaurant. I have worked at the airport for 2 years, and I really enjoy working at the airport. I made a plan to get through to this pandemic disaster. I'm working during the layoff of the part-time second job I already had. And I want to go back to work at the airport as soon as House reopens. HMS House could change its plan for my future because we all received a letter from the HMS House last week saying that HMS House will end our employment on October 15th, less than 60 days from today. What you do today will make the difference if I have a future here at the airport. Will you reward us by giving them millions of dollars or additional rent relief with no conditions? Or will you protect all the workers and make sure we keep our jobs? Will you make sure HMS House does not replace us with new workers? We need you to pass a fair recall policy. We need you to vote for a good future for the worker. Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
The next speaker to be recognized is Isabel Geary. Ms. Bo, can you unmute Ms. Geary? Geary, you're recognized.
Hello, my name is Isabel Geary. I work for HMS Host at Chili's. I'm a college student, one of many college students working at this great airport. The restaurant jobs here are very important to young college students like me. I was able to count on the job to make a decent salary to pay my college tuition, and also appreciated and depended on the job's flexibility for my class schedule. I want to return to work as soon as Chili's reopens, even if that is many months from now. However, I received a letter from HMS Host last week. It says that Host will end my employment if they do not recall me to work by October 15th. This means that after October 15th, Host will be able to reopen my restaurant, Chili's, with new workers they hire from the outside. This is unacceptable and outrageous. This GOA board must make rent relief conditioned on a fair recall policy. My future is just as important as my billionaire boss's future. You need to protect my future today. You need more rent relief today without a requirement to recall us to our jobs. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next speaker, we have a name Jennifer Daida. Jennifer Daida, D-E-I-D-A. Ms. Bo.
We do not have anybody by that last name.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. So the person who sent in the email for Jennifer Data, we can't identify you to unmute you. So please send in your comments by email. Mr. Eric Clinton is next. Ms. Bo, if you can unmute Mr. Clinton. Mr. Clinton, you're recognized.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Eric Clinton. I'm the president of Unite Here Local 362 and the Central Florida AFL-CIO. You've received our union's recent report called No More Public Handouts to HMS Host Billionaires. The report explains that HMS Host direct parent company in the Benetton Empire Auto Grill has received or is negotiating terms for $475 million in government handouts since the onset of COVID-19. Some of it from airport authorities at the city and state level, and even more from the support program of the Italian government. AutoGrill's board passed a resolution on March 12th to start a share buyback program of up to 3 million shares for a maximum cost of $35.8 million to facilitate incentive plans for management, directors, and other employees. The share buyback program continued into April while Host was asking you for rent relief. In the midst of the pandemic, Host and the Italian billionaires who own it are getting massive handouts while Host workers can't pay rent and bills, don't have enough food to eat, and even had their health insurance cut off by Host as of June 4th. This board already granted concessionaires millions of dollars in relief with no requirements, and that these companies should recall their people fairly. We urge you to reconsider any further relief without conditions on that relief. Though it does have the power to condition rent relief on recall rights for concession workers who were laid off or furloughed due to COVID-19. It has a proprietary interest in ensuring a smooth transition back to normal employment when business returns. This is a common sense thing to do. As businesses reopen or begin to restore operations to previous levels, they should commit to bring back the same employees they employed before the crisis hit. Employers would not have to bring back more employees than they need. They would simply have to bring back workers in order of length of service. Other cities have done this. You have the legal authority to require concessionaires to recall workers fairly. GOA should be looking out for the financial interests of the airport and its workers, not the Italian billionaires. We can't allow the COVID pandemic to be an opportunity for unscrupulous employers to get rid of workers, whether they are older, have families to support, or have spoken out for public safety. I ask you, no rent relief for billionaire businesses without recall rights for Orlando workers. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker listed is Veronica Jackson. Ms. Bo, if you can unmute Veronica Jackson. Ms. Jackson, you're recognized. Ms. Veronica Jackson.
Mr. Gerber, we don't have a Veronica Jackson. We have Veronica Fernandez, but not Veronica Jackson.
All right. Let's unmute Veronica Fernandez just in case. And Ms. Fernandez, if you want to speak, you have 2 minutes. Hearing none, we'll move on to, oh wait, Ms. Fernandez is up, I see on the screen. Ms. Fernandez, if you want to speak, go ahead for 2 minutes.
No, I'm good, thank you.
All right, thank you. The next speaker is Emily Geary. Ms. Bo, if you can locate Ms. Geary's name and unmute her.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, thank you.
Thank you. My name is Emily Geary. I work for HMS Host at the Starbucks Airside 2. The Starbucks brand makes millions for HMS Host, and the billionaire owners of HMS Host don't need any handouts. The owners can survive this pandemic using their enormous financial strength. They reported to their investors recently that they have obtained a 15-month coveted holiday on all their financial debt. Meanwhile, this board is considering giving them more rent relief? Why are you prioritizing their financial comfort over the real needs of the workers of Orlando? Today, I'm speaking out for people who are unable to make their voices heard, people at high risk to get COVID-19, people who are facing eviction, people who are already homeless, families who are confronting hunger, parents who are facing impossible decisions about their children's education. While the HMS Host owners celebrate their financial health with their investors, they sent over 700 of us workers a letter last week. It says that Host will end our employment if they do not recall us to work by October 15th. Talk about hypocrisy. My future is at stake here. You need to protect the workers today. Do not approve more rent relief today without a requirement to recall us to our jobs. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker, and I'm sorry to go off screen when you were speaking, Ms. Geary, but we're trying to make sure our speakers match up with the list that we have here. The next speaker we have is Angela McKinnon. Angela McKinnon, if you can unmute her. Thank you, Ms. McKinnon.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
My name is Angie McKinnon. I'm a lead organizer for the Unite Here Union and a longtime resident of Central Florida. I would like to make it absolutely clear that this GOA board has the legal authority under Florida state law to pass a fair recall requirement covering concession companies with leases at the airport. The Florida Statute 218.077 does not prohibit you from taking this action. In fact, Section 2 of the statute specifically permits GOA to make even wages and benefits a condition in rent release because it is a subsidy. The concessionaires are contractually obligated to pay rent to GOA. If GOA relieves a concessionaire of some part of the contractual obligation, GOA is in effect granting a subsidy to the concessionaires. In addition, the right of recall is not an employment benefit that an employer provides to an employee. In Florida State Statute 218.077, subsection 1B, the term employment benefits is defined as anything of value that an employee may receive from an employer in addition to wages and benefits. Being recalled is not something that the employer provides to the employee in the course of an employment relationship. It is an offer that the employer makes, which, if accepted, will cause employment relationships to continue or resume. Mayor Dimmons, Mayor Dyer, the Central Florida workers and their families are counting on you to do the right thing and pass a fair recall requirement today. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is, thank you. Our next speaker is Bismael Gomez Colon. Bismael Gomez Colon. If Ms. Stokes, you can unmute Bismael Gomez Colon. Thank you.
No problem. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. You can call me Abby next time you see my name. So my name is Bismael Colon. Just like my co-workers, I also work at the HMS host Outback for 8 years. We've been showing up every single time. We've been speaking out about our fears of not getting our job back. Just like we anticipated before, we got the final letter saying that we will be permanently laid off. We've been telling this board, as well as other boards, like the council and Orange Commissioner, where some of you preside. What HMS Host was doing since before the pandemic started. We are not getting called back in less than 60 days. They are leaving us and our family without any income or any resource to support us. We are not getting called back after October 15th. Their goal is to get new employees and use the pandemic as an excuse to get a second handout for this board. They have the power to do this unless you guys, the leaders of this airport, do the right thing and stand up with the workers of Orange County. You board members can change the fate of us and our family. Refuse to give another handout to this company unless they include the fair recall policy. Just like the great leaders in the city of Los Angeles, California have done, GOA can require the company to keep our job protected. And as we, the business, as we know the business will be returning to the airport, we can return to work and we can continue to make the best airport in the nation just like we did before. Make the right choice about this. We are counting on the great leaders of this board to do the duty that you were elected to do. Do what is best for the citizens of Orange County. People before profit. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Mr. Chairman, that concludes our speakers who signed up in advance of the deadline.
Thank you very much, and thank everyone for coming and talking. Are there any discussions from the board?
I have a question and perhaps for General Counsel. They raised some issues here on the Florida Statute 218. And while I may sympathize or perhaps empathize with many of the individuals who have spoken today, I really want to understand what is our legal authority to make binding on this corporation any particular directive regarding the recall of employees or the establishment of the payment of some minimum wage, et cetera. What is our authority? I'd like the General Counsel to kind of share with us his interpretation of the statute itself and what authority the board has, if any.
Thank you, Mayor. We looked at this question carefully. And I also want to say that we looked at this question carefully in cooperation with Council for Union Representatives yesterday. It was a productive and professional conversation. It's our conclusion that this board does not have the authority to grant the recall rights and benefits that the employees of HMS Host discussed. First of all, to make clear, these are not GOA employees. They are employees of HMS Host, and by contract, we do not have the authority to control certain parts of their employment. We can dictate to HMS Host things like OSHA, health and safety. And as we previously discussed, we've required CDC guidance to be followed. But these are not GOA employees. They are employees of HMS Host. Florida statutes states a political subdivision may not establish, mandate, or otherwise require an employer to provide employment benefits not otherwise required by state or federal law. The right that the employees are seeking is not required by state or federal law. During our earlier discussion about the minimum wage back in the spring, we discussed with you a 3rd District Court of Appeal case called Ultra Services. That was applied to Miami International Airport, and in that case, the 3rd District Court of Appeal, which is binding precedent statewide until otherwise dictated, said that this statute would apply in this sort of situation, where essentially you have a service provider that provides services to airport customers, but not the airport itself. As I said, by contract, also, HMS Host employees are employees of HMS Host, not GOA. So that poses a great difficulty. We also discussed with union counsel what any exceptions to the statute could apply. The exception that they pointed to most directly was 3A3, stating, as one of the speakers said earlier, that this resolution amounted to a subsidy in favor of HMS Host. However, the United States Supreme Court and the courts of Florida have adopted subsidy differently. Subsidy involves a direct transfer of public monies to the subsidized enterprise and uses resources extracted from taxpayers as a whole, says the United States Supreme Court and the appellate courts in Florida. So this does not fall under the subsidy or direct tax abatement exceptions under the statute. Last, Mr. Clinton raised the California issues, as did some of the other speakers, that some airports in California have granted this employment benefit as part of the modification resolutions. However, California does not have the same statutes as Florida, and Florida has this specific statute that limits your authority. Second, the cities which granted this, Los Angeles, Oakland, and San Diego, are charter cities which have expanded power under California law. Last, the ask here is essentially to discriminate against a single concessionaire, HMS Host. The San Diego resolution did that. Now, why San Diego did that, I don't know. But we would never advise that sort of solution here. Therefore, Mayor, in the end, we find that this authority does not have the authority to grant the relief requested. Thank you.
Okay, given what you just advised us on in terms of the legal issues, I certainly understand. And I think before our board today, we have to make some decisions about whether to offer any abatements or deferrals to any of the concessionaires. And what I'm hearing you say now is that we cannot discriminate against one particular corporation over another. And so it would mean that simply we could not, I'm going to use the term bifurcate the decision today to single out just HMS hosts and say we wouldn't provide the rent deferral for HMS hosts. We will have to make that decision that we will not approve any rent deferrals for any of the concessionaires, including HMS hosts. Is that correct?
Yes, Mayor. As I hear your question, the option would be either to not grant the resolution and not vote for it, but frankly, you cannot single out a single entity in contracts with the authority and treat them differently than others.
Okay, I understand. All right, thank you for the response.
Mr. Chairman, just a couple comments. I agree with Mayor Demings. I'm extremely sympathetic to the furloughed workers. Well, I'm sympathetic to anybody that doesn't have their job right now. Quite honestly, they're more than just at the airport. But we're also sympathetic to our business partners that are concessionaires at the airport. And I had an opportunity to talk with Dan yesterday about his legal opinion on that, and I think I accept that, and the reasoning is certainly logical. We can't discriminate and pick out one company to not give the same benefit that we're giving all the other companies. And I don't quite understand the disconnect, because I've seen correspondence from hosts that says their policy is to bring people back by particular job category, number one, and then seniority, number two. Maybe they're not exercising that. I don't know, but it just puzzles me that there's a disconnect between what host is telling us and what the employees are telling us. But today, I think we need to continue to give relief to our concessionaires and continue to press host, I suppose, to address the issues that the employees bring to them. Now, I would so move the recommended action.
Yeah, it appears that we don't have the legal authority to do anything different. And I, again, also very sympathetic to folks that are unemployed right now or may lose their jobs. But I think we need to go ahead and move forward with this. And so I would second that motion.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Brown, will you call the roll?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Good.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Martinez.
Yes.
Mayor Dyer.
Yes.
Mayor Demings.
Yes.
The motion is approved unanimously, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Do we have anything further on the agenda? The information section?
Nothing on the agenda or information. I would like to indulge you just a minute to recognize one of our longstanding employees who is retiring at the end of this month. Stan Thornton has served as a chief operating officer for almost 10 years. And on August 28th, he will be retiring from the Aviation Authority. He's going to be missed by a lot of people. He's had a pivotal role in everything that we've been able to accomplish over this last decade, and particularly in helping direct all the efforts of the staff and the construction team on moving forward on the construction of the South Terminal. He's taken a lot of a load off of me. He'll be sorely missed, and but I wish him well, and I understand why he needs to retire, and I just wish him a happy retirement.
Thank you, Stan.
Stan, from my standpoint, I want to thank you always for being so professional. Your depth of knowledge, every time I asked you a question, you had a great answer and a very deep answer. You worked hard for the authority. You were a real example to other employees, and I just want to wish you the very, very best.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to thank Stan for his work at the authority. We're going to miss you, but you've done a great job, and I've had, I feel like, a great opportunity having worked with you. Thanks.
And Mr. Chairman, I'm going to echo the same sentiments of my colleagues on the board during the nearly 2 years that I have been on the board. Stan has been most helpful to me and informative in briefing me regarding various board items, and so he's a consummate professional and will certainly be missed by those of his co-workers there at the airport, but I'm sure all of us on the board, as you've heard as well. So the job well done, and we wish him well in his future endeavors.
I appreciate it, gentlemen. It's been an honor to work here. This is a great place to work. There's been great visionaries, and you guys are certainly have a vision. So it's been a pleasure working with you, and good luck.
Anything else, Mr. Brown?
No, sir. That concludes the business for today. I appreciate your perseverance, and congratulations to all of you that have been elected officers, and congratulations to all of you for getting to this meeting. Thank you.
Call the meeting to a close. Thank you.
Chairman, before we close, I just wanted to congratulate you, wish you the best. You've hit the ground, it sounds like, with UCF, and we're looking forward to your leadership, sir. Congratulations.
Well, we'll have a lot of fun together in the next year. Thank you.